Hey guys, I've had a few people ask me to do a video on the Google Maps API, and I thought that was a pretty good idea because there is a lot of info out there. There are a lot of videos, but most of them are really old and not very well put together. So I want to do kind of a no-nonsense guide on creating a map, adding markers. We're going to organize the code so that we can easily add markers to an array. We're going to make it so that we can have custom icons for our markers if we want. We're going to add pop-up overlays and so on. Alright, so that's what we'll be doing in this video. Let's go ahead and get started. This video is sponsored by Dev Mountain. If you're interested in learning web development, iOS, or UX design, Dev Mountain is a 12-week design and development bootcamp intended to get you a full-time job in the industry. To learn more, visit devmountain.com or click the link in the description below. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Now I have the documentation open for Google Maps, which is developers.google.com/maps. And there's a few different guides if you're developing for Android, iOS, web services, but we're going to be dealing with just web. So we're going to click on that. And we're also dealing with the JavaScript API. There's a lot of different services, a lot of different APIs. You want to make sure you're using the JavaScript one. Alright, and then if we go to create map with a marker, we're not going to strictly follow this and copy all the code exactly, but it gives you a good idea of how to get started. So I figured I would just kind of keep this open as we go along. Now in order to use this, if you look down here, when we actually include the map API script, you need to have an API key. Alright, so to do that, we're going to go to our Google API console, which is console.developers.google.com, and you're going to have a project. So let's say create project, and for this I'm just going to say test project and click create. Alright, and then this isn't just for maps, this is for any Google API, geocoding or YouTube or video APIs, things like that. So let's go over here and click this and go to let's see, we want to go to dashboard, and if we click on enable API, this is all the stuff we have to choose from. So we can work with Google Docs and Gmail and Google Plus, social networking APIs, all this stuff, analytics. What we want is right here, Google Maps JavaScript API. So we'll click on that, and then we're going to let's see, select project, and let's see, select, and we're going to choose test project, and then if we go to enable, that should enable it, and it should give us a key. So if we go down to credentials and create credentials, we want to create an API key, and there it is right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and just copy that. Now you can restrict this to certain domains if you want, but we're just going to leave it completely open. And let's just click close. Alright, so there's our key there. We can come back to this page whenever we want. So now we can get started on our project. So I'm going to go into Atom, which is the text editor I'm using. And I have a folder called My Map with an empty index.html file. And that's all we're going to need for this project. Now I do have a couple plugins installed that I'm using. I'm using Emmet, so I can use shorthands. Like if I wanted to do a div, I could say div tab. That'll give me a div tag, or I could do ID hello and tab. It'll give me an ID of hello. So if you see me do that, I'm using Emmet. All right, and then I'm also using a package called Atom Live Server, which just opens this file up on my local host. And you don't need this, you can just open it up in your file system, but I'm going to go ahead and use this. So if I go start server, it'll actually open it up on a port on my local host. Alright, now if you want these installed as well, you just need to go to settings, and if you go to install, and you want to search for first Emmet packages, and you want to install this here. Alright, and then if you want the live server, just search for Atom Live Server packages, and you're going to want this one here by Jazz Chen. Okay, so those are the two plugins that I'm using. But again, you don't need those. You don't need to use Atom. Use whatever you'd like. Alright, so with Emmet, I can just do an exclamation and then tab, and it's going to give us kind of an HTML structure. So just to save some time. And I'm just going to change the title here. We'll just say My Google Map. Alright, and then down in the body, we're going to need to include the Google Map API script. So if we go back to that documentation page here and we look at the example, we want this here, the script tag. So let's copy it, and I'm actually just going to minimize this, and we can make this really small because everything's responsive, and I'll just make this a little smaller. All right, so let's go ahead and paste that in our body, and notice that we need to put our API key in. So let's go back to that credentials page. Well, I guess this isn't responsive, but I'll just scroll over and I'm just going to grab the key here. Make sure you guys use your own. This one will not be valid. So we'll go ahead and paste that in. Now notice that it has a parameter called callback that's set to a init map. So it's going to try to load a function called init map. So what we'll do is put in another set of script tags right above. Whoops. And in here, we're going to have to put our function, and we're going to call it init map. Okay. Now we're going to need a place in the HTML to dump our map. So if we look at the code sample here, you'll see there's an ID of map. So that's what we're going to do. Right above the script in the body, let's put a div with an ID of map. Okay, and nothing goes in there. It's just the plain div. I'm also just going to put an H1 above it, and we'll just say my Google Map. All right, and then inside init map, we're going to want to do a couple things. So we're going to want to set a variable called map and set it to a new Google Map object. Okay, since we included this script right here, we can do this new Google Maps dot, and then we can do different things. To get the map, we just do dot map, and that's going to take in two parameters. One is going to be the element that we want to dump it in, which is the ID of map, and then some options. Now I like to put my options inside of a variable, so what I'm going to do is say var options, oops, and set that to an object, and then in here we want to put our zoom level, which I'm going to set to 8. I think the max is like 14 or something like that. We'll check that out. And then we also need the center, okay, wherever we want to center this. Now right here they put it in a variable called ULURU, and you see it's an object with a latitude and longitude. I believe that's in Australia. What I'm going to do is get the latitude and longitude for Boston, which is the area that I live in, and we're just going to grab that, and then over here let's put an object with lat, paste that in, and then we'll grab that, put a comma here, LNG, and then we're going to do negative and then pass that in. Alright, so there's our options. Now we need to create the map object, so let's say var map equals, and then we can do new google.maps.M map, and remember that takes in two parameters. One is going to be document.getElementById, and it's going to be the ID of map. We're referring to this right here, and then the second parameter will be the options that we created. Now if I go ahead and save this and let it reload, you'll see that we don't see anything. That's because we haven't set a height and a width to our map. Okay, so it has the ID of map, so let's go in the head here and say style and say the ID of map, and we're going to set the height to 400 pixels, and then we'll set the width to 100% of its container. And if we save that and let it reload, now we have a map. Okay, and you can see it's centered on Boston. And we can go ahead and change the zoom level if we want. So if we were to say like zoom 2, save that, you'll see it zooms way out. If we go, let's say zoom 13, you'll see it goes way into the city. Alright, so I'm just going to keep it at 8. Alright, so that's how we can get just the map. So now we want to add a marker. So to do that, if we look at the documentation here, we create a variable called marker, set it to a new marker, and then we put in the position and then the map we want to add it to. Alright, so let's go down here under where we created the map variable, and let me just add some comments here as well. So this is the map options, and this is, we're saying new map, and then here, let's say add marker. So we'll do variable marker, set that to new google.maps.marker. All right, and then this is going to take in an object with a position of where we want to put the marker, and I'm going to grab the position for, let's say, Lynn, Mass, which is the city that I was born in. All right, and we'll grab that. Just like we did with the center, we're going to do lat, paste that in, and then LNG, and we'll grab that. Okay, paste that in. Now we have the position, and then we need a parameter, or not a parameter, but a value here that's going to be the map we want to add it to, which is the map we created right here. So let's just do that. All right, and then if we save and go back, you'll see that we have a marker. Okay, we can zoom in, and you can see it's on Lynn, Mass. All right, now we can add as many markers as we want, but for now I'm just going to stick with this one, and then I'll show you how we can make it so that we can add more in an efficient way. Now, the next thing I want to do is show you how to use a custom icon, okay? Because you may not want this marker, okay? So right here we can just add in, I think it's icon, and then I'm just going to grab a link here to a beach flag icon. So let me paste that in. You'll see it's at the developer's Google site. It's in the documentation, images/beach flag. So if we save that, you'll see that the marker is now changed. All right. Now, if you have multiple markers, you can make it so that you can have different icons for each one, or some of them maybe to mark a beach like we're doing here, or to mark a restaurant, things like that. What the hell, freaking mosquito in here. But that's how we can add a custom marker. Now let's go ahead and add an info window so that when we click on this, we have this pop-up with some text or some content. So for that, what we're going to do is go under the marker, and we're going to create a variable called info window, and then let's set that to new google.maps.info window. All right, and then that's going to take in an object with the content that we want. So I'm just going to put in an H1 here. You can put HTML, and I'm just going to say Lynn, Mass. Now that itself isn't going to do anything. If I save it, you'll see it doesn't work. What we have to do is add a listener to listen for that info window. So right under it, let's say marker dot add listener, and we want to listen for a click because we want this to happen when we actually click it. And then we have a function that runs. Okay, and then we're just going to say info window, and that has a function associated with it called open, and then that's just going to take in the map and the marker. So let's save that, and now if we go over here and click, you'll see we get our pop-up window with the H1. Alright, so that's kind of cool. So that's basically how you can add, a single marker with a custom icon with an info window. But now what I want to do is I want to make it so that we can have multiple markers. Now, what we could do is copy all of this right here and then just paste it in for each and every marker, but that's not very efficient. We want to do this in a different way. So I'm gonna comment out what we just did. I'm going to keep the options in the map and then just comment out the rest, which is down to here. Alright, and then we're going to just do things a little different. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have a function called add marker where we can just pass in values, and we can then put the dynamic values here instead of hard coding it. Alright, so let's say we'll say add marker function. So function add marker. All right, and then let's make that take in the coordinates. So we'll say chords. All right, and then let's copy this where we actually created the marker, and we'll paste that in, and instead of this being hard coded, we're going to say chords. Okay. Now, if we leave it like this, every single marker is going to have this icon, and I'm just going to keep it like that for now. After, I'll show you how we can make them different. All right, so we have this add marker function. We also want, you know what, let's not do the info window just yet. Let's just go ahead and call this add marker function. And let's grab the location, this right here, or the coordinates, and pass that in. And let's see if this works. So we'll save, and there it is. All right, now if we wanted to add another one, we could copy this, paste it in. Let's get the coordinates for, let's say, Amesbury, Mass, which is where I live now. Just copy that, paste that in, and we'll grab this one like that, save it. Let's go back, and now you see we have two markers. Okay, so let's add another one. We'll say, I don't know, let's do Haverhill. So actually let's copy this and paste that in here. Grab that. Oh, I forgot the 4 on that one. And now we should have 3, so we can keep adding markers. All right. Now, what if we wanted to have custom icons for certain markers? So what we would do here, or what I would do, there's a lot of different ways to do stuff like this. This is just one. So what I would do is I would change it from just entering the chords into this function to entering some properties. All right, and chords will be one of those properties. So what we'll do is let's go in here and say chords, and then that's going to be its own object. We have to add another one over here, another curly brace. That should be chords. All right, we're going to do that for all of these. Oops, that should only be one there. Okay. All right, and then down here, instead of taking chords, it's going to be a props object, which is this entire thing. And it has a value of chords. So right here, what we'll do is just do props.chords. So if we save that, that should do the same exact thing. Now, in addition to the coordinates, we want to be able to put an image or an icon. So let me just bring this down here like that. And then we'll put a comma. And then we'll just say icon image. All right, and then let's grab this, copy that, put it in there, and then instead of doing this hard-coded image, we'll do props.icon image. All right, now we're only putting it in the first one, which is Lynn, Mass, so that should only be the only one with the beach icon. So let's save, and there we go. So all the markers, these two are going to have just the standard, standard map icon or marker, and then Lynn has the beach flag. Okay, now this isn't really optimal because since we're not inputting icon image into either of these, it's undefined. So it's actually setting icon to undefined, and we don't want that. So we can set it a different way. So what we'll do is comment this out for now. And then let's go under, still in the add marker function, but under where we created the variable for the marker. And we can actually test to see if that parameter is there, if that icon image is there. So let's say if props.icon image, then we want to set the image. And we can do that by taking that marker and saying set icon. And then we want to set it to props.icon image. Let's put a comment here. We'll say check for custom icon, and then we'll say set icon image. Save that, and now you can see it's the same thing, but it's better because we don't have an undefined value here. All right, so let's see what else we want to do here. Let's go ahead and do the info window. All right, now obviously we don't want the same info for every one, so we have to pass that in as a property as well. So we'll go up here, put a comma, and let's say content, and I'm going to set that to an H1, and let's say Lin Mass. And then down here, we're going to do kind of the same thing we did here. We're going to check to see if the content was put in for that particular location. So let's say check content. So we'll say if props.content, then we're going to do what we did up here. We're going to create the info window, and then we're going to add the listener. So I'm just going to copy that. Put that in, and except we don't want this hard-coded value. We want this to be the props.content that was passed in. Alright, so let's save that, and now if we go and click on this one here, you'll see we get our pop-up. These ones don't, because we didn't pass anything in. If we wanted to, we could take that, and let's go ahead and put a comma there, and then we'll say we'll pass in the content, and I believe this one's Amesbury. So now if we save that and we go click up here, you see we get the Amesbury, Mass. Alright, so hopefully this is making sense to you guys. I mean, you do have to have a little bit of knowledge of JavaScript to really grasp what's going on as far as you know, JavaScript objects. So let's see what else I want to do. Now, I don't want to have to call this add marker like this, so the 3 different add markers, and then for every single one we want. So what we'll do is put all of this stuff, all of these properties, into an array up at the top. Alright, actually we'll just do it right here. So let's create one second. Alright, so let's create an array of markers. Okay, so we'll say var, we'll call it markers, set it to an array. Okay, and then what we'll do is grab this one, so everything that's inside of these curly braces, we'll copy that, paste it in. Alright, and then we'll put a comma, and let's grab this second one, paste that in, comma, grab this last one, there we go. And now what we'll do is loop through this, and then for each iteration we'll just call add marker once, as opposed to calling it every single time here and filling up our page. So for that, let's do loop through markers, and we'll do a for loop, and we'll put in here var I is equal to 0, and then we want to say as long as I is less than markers.length. Okay, and then we just want to do I++, which will increment it by 1 after every iteration. So what we'll have to do here is just take add marker, paste that in like that, and let's see, and then all we have to do, we don't need to pass in this single object, we'll just say markers and then the current iteration. Okay, so I represents whatever one of these that we're currently on, so it'll do this one, then this one, and keep going, and then we can just get rid of these 3. So a much cleaner way to do things. Alright, so let's save that, and there we go. So it works the same way, but it's much cleaner. Okay, so let's see what else we want to do here. Let's make it so that when we click on an empty area in the map, or click anywhere in the map, it will actually create a marker for us. Now, it's not going to create like a content window or anything like that. It's just going to be the image. Because I mean, we could create a form and then do it that way, but that's gonna get too complicated. I want this to be kind of basic. So to do that, we're going to have to add a listener. We can add a listener on the map to listen for a click event. So let's put this right under, where is it? Actually, let's go up to the top, right under where we created the map. So we'll say add, or we'll say listen for click on map. So to do that, we're going to do google.maps.event.listener, or I'm sorry, add listener. Okay, and we want to pass in the map we want to listen on, which is, you know, the variable map, and then the event, which will be a click, and then we want to run a function. All right, so this function will take in an event parameter, and then in here we just want to call add marker. Okay, now remember the add marker takes in properties object, right? So we'll pass in an object, and then like I said, we're not going to do a custom icon or anything like that. We just want the coordinates. Okay, so just coords, and we can get that with event.lat.lng. That'll actually get the latitude and longitude of the area that you click in. So we'll just say add marker. All right, so let's save that, and now you'll see when I click anywhere, it goes and it adds a marker. If I reload, they're going to be gone, and they're not getting saved in a database or anything. That's something that maybe we could do in a different video, but I think that that's going to be it for now. So just imagine if you had a form and you could submit that form to a database, you could save locations, and then when we're calling or when we're fetching this array right here, this array of markers, this could be stored in a database. All right, and you could update them. You can make it so that when you click on it, a form opens. You can edit the information. So you could do some really cool stuff with this. And like I said, I'm not going to get into database stuff, back-end stuff. I just wanted to give you kind of an introduction to some of the things that you could do with the JavaScript API. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different than what we usually do, but you know, I like to try to fulfill as many requests as I can. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.